Have you ever noticed that intelligence alone is no guarantee of financial success? That brilliant people with degrees from prestigious universities and solid careers often still struggle to make ends meet. It seems unfair, doesn't it? How can someone who masters complex theories, who knows how to plan, who understands economics and management, still be trapped in scarcity? Traditional logic says money is a direct result of knowledge and hard work. But this logic hides a dark secret, a hidden side of money that almost no one talks about. Recent studies reveal something frightening. More than half of people with high IQs or higher education face persistent financial difficulties. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's not a lack of hard work. It's something much deeper. An invisible combination of mental patterns, limiting beliefs, and traps of the financial system that block the path to prosperity. Behind the numbers and diplomas lies a psychological minefield, terrain where fear of failure, social pressure, perfectionism, and even fear of success create invisible yet insurmountable barriers. In this CashPhrenia video, we'll break down this reality. We all show why the system and even your own brain might be conspiring against your wealth, even if you are one of the smartest people you know. Get ready for a journey that will challenge your beliefs, open your eyes to the truth, and help you understand how to break this cycle of self-sabotage. Because understanding why smart people stay poor is the first step to changing your own story. Meet Lucas, a 34-year-old software engineer, graduated from one of the best universities in the country. Since he was young, he was considered one of the smartest in his class. His grades were always high, and he accumulated certificates, specializations, and awards throughout his career. With a stable job at a large tech company, Lucas earns a salary many would consider excellent. He has access to opportunities, resources, and even a powerful network of contacts. But, surprisingly, Lucas faces a dilemma few imagine. Despite all his intelligence and apparent success, he lives on the financial edge. He can never save a significant amount, is constantly worried about bills, and carries debts that seem never-ending. Lucas is not an exception. He represents a silent and invisible reality affecting thousands of smart people around the world. If you're watching this video, you might identify with him. You might be someone very capable who understands finance, reads books, takes courses, yet still feels unable to take a real step towards stability and prosperity. Why? Because logical intelligence, the one that helps us solve technical problems and make rational decisions, is not the main tool in the battle against poverty or scarcity. Money is not just a matter of calculations, spreadsheets, or technical knowledge. Money is, above all, an emotional game. It's a complex dance between our fears, our beliefs, our past, and the environment we live in. How we were raised, the messages we received about wealth and poverty, the fear of failure, or even the fear of success. All of this leaves deep marks on the mind. And these marks can become true traps, even for the brightest and most educated people. The economic system, the job market, and even our formal education never prepared us to deal with this emotional complexity that surrounds money. If we were taught financial math, we were never taught how to handle anxiety in front of a credit card bill, social pressure to show off, or the feeling of insufficiency, even when the bank account is positive. In this CashPhrenia video, we'll dive deep into this hidden reality. We all understand how mental patterns and unconscious emotions cause smart people like Lucas to repeatedly stumble over the same financial mistakes. We'll talk about paralyzing perfectionism that blocks action, about fear of judgment that limits risk-taking, and about silent sabotage that happens when the brain tries to protect us from the unknown. Because the truth is, to prosper financially, it's not enough to be smart. You need to understand and transform the way your brain deals with money. And that's exactly the journey we want to invite you to start. A journey to discover the hidden side of money, the one that's not in books or classes, but inside your mind. Lucas always believed his intelligence would be his greatest ally in solving his financial problems. Since he was young, he saw numbers and financial strategies as the path to freedom. That's why he dedicated hours to studying personal finance, watching videos, reading books, and taking online courses. He created complex spreadsheets to organize his expenses and control every cent coming in and out of his pocket. In the first days after deciding to change, Lucas felt renewed energy. Finally, he had a clear plan: pay off debts, control impulses, and start saving to invest in the future. He cut unnecessary subscriptions, began preparing meals at home, avoided expensive events, and started recording every expense in his finance tracking app. Every small progress was celebrated: paying off an old debt, saving money on the last purchase, seeing a positive balance on his statement. The feeling of taking the reins of his life was intense and motivating. He felt more confident, more secure, more in control. For Lucas, everything indicated that intelligence and discipline would finally lead him to prosperity. However, despite this new organized routine, something still bothered him. In moments of stress, fatigue, or frustration, he felt an almost irresistible urge to reward himself. It was as if his brain said, "You deserve something now." This inner voice, though subtle, had enormous power and often made Lucas succumb to impulse buys. Small rewards he tried to justify. One particularly stressful weekend, after a tough meeting at work, Lucas decided to buy an expensive gadget he had seen online. He knew he didn't need it, and that the money could be used to pay off a debt, but in that moment, emotion outweighed reason. After the purchase came regret, but that wasn't all. He realized this pattern had silently repeated. Since he began trying to control his finances, this discovery was a shock. He understood that, no matter how smart he was dealing with an invisible enemy. His own emotions, stress, anxiety, and fear were influencing his financial decisions more than any spreadsheet or course ever could. Even so, Lucas didn't give up. He sought techniques to control these impulses. He started meditating, exercising, and keeping a journal to identify his emotional triggers. He began talking to friends and even sought professional help to better understand his money-related emotions. These first steps brought real progress. He managed to pay off some debts and save small amounts that once seemed impossible. The feeling of progress boosted his self-esteem and reinforced the idea that discipline and intelligence would be enough to win. However, during this rise, false optimism took hold of Lucas. He believed that willpower alone would be enough to maintain financial control forever, that by applying more planning and effort, he would definitively win the battle against his emotions. This is a crucial moment in the journey of anyone trying to overcome sabotaging patterns. The conflict between reason and emotion, between the desire to change and the deep brain programming that resists transformation. Lucas was at the beginning of his journey, full of hope and the feeling that he could change his story. But little did he know the greatest challenge was yet to come. In the first months of change, Lucas truly believed he was in control. His spreadsheets were organized, debts were decreasing, and he stayed focused on saving. It seemed his intelligence and discipline were finally paying off. But what Lucas didn't yet know was that his emotional mind was not aligned with his rational mind. And this would create a silent storm that undermined all his efforts. It all started with small slips. An expensive dinner with colleagues to relieve pressure. An unexpected gift to himself after a stressful week. An impulsive online purchase to fill a void he barely understood. Each of these small actions seemed isolated, justifiable, but together they formed a dangerous pattern. The anxiety he felt daily, the fear of failure, the constant pressure to be perfect, created an emotional burden that drove him to seek immediate comfort. Neuroscience explains that in stressful situations, the brain activates the limbic system, responsible for basic emotions, and decreases activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region that governs rational thinking and self-control. This means that even for someone intelligent like Lucas, decision-making can be dominated by emotional impulses. And when those impulses involve money, the consequences can be devastating. Moreover, Lucas carried deep, often unconscious beliefs about money and success. Since childhood, he had heard messages like, "Money is dirty," or "Rich people are greedy," creating an internal conflict between the desire to prosper and the guilt of wanting more. This conflict generated a self-sabotage mechanism. He wanted to grow, but his emotional brain pulled him back, making him feel discomfort in the face of progress. And his environment didn't help. Social pressure to maintain a lifestyle, fear of judgment, and constant comparison with colleagues and friends created tension that only increased his anxiety. Lucas tried to resist. He tried to remember his plans, reinforce discipline, avoid triggers. But each relapse increased guilt and feelings of failure, creating a vicious cycle. This cycle: anxiety, impulsive buying, guilt, self-criticism, and more anxiety, is a trap many intelligent people fall into, without realizing the problem. Lack of intelligence, but the complexity of human emotions and the power of the unconscious. At a particularly difficult moment, Lucas saw his savings disappear in just a few days after a series of impulsive purchases to try to feel better. The shock was big, and a feeling of helplessness took over. But it was precisely then that Lucas realized he needed to look inward, understand his emotional triggers, and not just rely on willpower. He began to recognize that the battle was not against money, but against the deep patterns of his own mind. Lucas always believed that his intelligence and discipline were the keys to financial success. He was convinced that with knowledge and planning, he could control his finances and build the life he wanted. But despite all his efforts, something kept blocking his progress. What he didn't realize was that there was a deep and very common psychological error sabotaging his journey. The biggest mistake lies in the belief that our financial decisions are, above all, rational. For years, we have been taught that money is a matter of logic, math, and control. But neuroscience and behavioral psychology reveal a different truth. Most of our money choices are guided by emotions, impulses, and unconscious cognitive biases. One powerful bias is the effect heuristic. This bias leads us to make decisions based on how we feel at the moment, not necessarily on what we know is best for us in the long run. For Lucas, moments of anxiety, stress, or insecurity were triggers to seek immediate relief through consumption. Buying an expensive item, dining out, or even overspending were unconscious ways to calm his mind. Another fundamental bias is the present bias, our natural tendency to value immediate rewards over future benefits. This bias has deep evolutionary roots. In ancient times, prioritizing the here and now was a matter of survival, since the future was uncertain and unpredictable. But in the modern world, where financial planning and investing are tools for security and growth, this tendency can be a huge obstacle. Moreover, Lucas faced emotional self-sabotage, a phenomenon where limiting beliefs, deep fears, and even perfectionism create invisible barriers to success. Often, the fear of success is as powerful as the fear of failure. The brain seeks to maintain a known identity, even if it means staying in an uncomfortable financial comfort zone. This self-sabotage caused Lucas, despite all his intelligence and knowledge, to feel an internal resistance to move forward. It was as if two forces were battling inside him, the rational mind wanting to grow and the emotional mind pulling him back. To break this cycle, Lucas needed to go beyond traditional discipline. He had to understand that his relationship with money was not just math, but deeply emotional and psychological. And to change, he needed to integrate reason and emotion. Learning to recognize internal signals, deal with emotional triggers, and build conscious responses. This learning is the key to transforming your own relationship with money. Because when we understand the psychological errors that sabotage us, we gain the power to choose new, healthier, and more productive paths. In the next few minutes, we will discover how Lucas began this transformation and which strategies can apply to reprogram your financial mind and break free from the scarcity cycle. Lucas's journey shows us that intelligence and knowledge alone are not enough to achieve financial freedom. What truly matters is understanding how our mind works, especially the emotions and invisible patterns that shape our decisions. If you saw yourself in Lucas's story, know that you're not alone. Many brilliant people fall into the same traps, but the path out of this cycle begins with awareness. Here are the main lessons we can take from this journey. 1. Recognize the emotions influencing your financial decisions. Before making any purchase or investment, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Anxiety, fear, boredom. Naming the emotion weakens its control over you. 2. Understand your emotional triggers. What situations, people, or feelings usually lead you to impulsive decisions? Identifying these triggers is the first step toward creating coping strategies. 3. Learn to pause and reflect. Don't let yourself be driven by impulse. Take a moment before buying or making important decisions. This pause activates your prefrontal cortex, the center of self-control. 4. Reprogram your limiting beliefs. Often we carry negative ideas about money that aren't true. Question them and replace them with thoughts that support your growth. 5. Cultivate a mindset of growth and patience. Financial transformation is a gradual process. Celebrate small wins and be kind to yourself when mistakes happen. 6. Seek support when needed. Talking with experts, friends, or support groups can help you better understand and overcome emotional blocks. In the end, what truly breaks the cycle of scarcity is not just spreadsheets or better investments. It's transforming the relationship you have with your emotions and your beliefs about money. You can be smart, educated, and still feel stuck. But once you understand how your mind works, you hold the key to real change. If this video made you reflect, subscribe to the CashPhrenia channel to continue your journey of financial self-awareness. Drop a comment below. What was your biggest insight from this video? Which emotion do you most need to learn to manage when it comes to money? Your story might inspire others to break these invisible chains too. See you in the next video.